So tonight I was thinking about the Port Orchard, Washington thing that happened not long ago at South Kitsap High School, where a young female student at that high school was brutally assaulted by another student there, a male who threw something over a balcony from the second floor to the first floor and, basically almost killed this girl. And I was just thinking about that tonight. And it really got me to thinking about so many other problems that my family had to deal with at that school and how that relates to a place like Port Orchard and the Seattle area and essentially Washington State as a whole. And really what it comes down to is unaccountability, or as the older term would be, inaccountability, right? Which basically just means not being held responsible for your actions. Basically, you're given a pass. For whatever reason, you do some really effed up stuff. You do something real messed up, and you're just given a pass. It's not a big deal. And, unfortunately, in places like Washington State and other libtarded places like it, there's this notion that kids shouldn't be held accountable by the law because they're kids. Black people, LGBTQ, trans, immigrants, they're held to a different standard when it comes to the law. And it's absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the things that's leading to the downfalls of this nation. These kids need to be held accountable to a very reasonable degree by the law. This little slap on the wrist thing, it's not working. It's making the country a worse place. So, having said that, and I'm going to tell you about another incident at South Kitsap High School that happened with my family, and it might seem minor to a lot of people, but to me it was pretty major when it happened. And it really did change some of my decision making regarding my child attending that school. I want my child to understand that accountability is important. So why would I want her to continue to attend a school where they're not teaching that? Stay tuned, I'll tell you all about it. It's a great story. And just to be clear, I'm not necessarily talking about anybody specifically. I'm not mentioning any names. If your interpretation is that I'm talking about a particular person, that's all it is your interpretation and your opinion, not necessarily the truth. And just to be clear, a lot of what you hear in this video is just my opinions and beliefs. I'm entitled to have opinions and beliefs according to the First Amendment. If you interpret those as facts, that's your problem, not mine. All right, so like most high schools, I assume every high school has a cheer team. And my daughter, being around the age of 15, 16, she told me she wanted to be on cheer. So I said, that's a great aspiration, extracurricular activity. Maybe it'll teach you some responsibility, accountability, some discipline, keep you fit, keep you social, keep you busy, et cetera, right? So as a parent, I'm thinking this is a great idea. I love this. It's going to cost some money. Got it, right? Fortunately for me, I did 22 years in the military. I got some pension. I got some VA disability. I got a job I work. Good to go. Pay a little money. Be on the cheer team. South Kitsap High School. What could go wrong, right? Well, here's what went wrong after some time, right? Turns out there's a lot of drama on the cheer team. Kind of expected that. Get a bunch of teenage girls together. I will say that when you watch a movie about cheerleaders, like a Hollywood movie about cheerleaders, I can't really think of one right now about cheerleaders, but I'm sure there are some. And I've definitely seen them in movies and in, on TV. And there's some truth to what you see in film. I mean, cheerleaders, they got a certain way about them. There's a certain personality about them. I don't want to go into details about that. I don't want to perpetuate any stereotypes, but all right, edit. I'm just inserting this real quick because I felt kind of bad that I did not know any of the names of the cheerleader movies, even though I had ones in mind. I'm looking at the computer because I looked these up, but Bring It On, that's a popular cheerleader movie. Fab Five, the Texas cheerleader scandal, pretty popular kind of documentary, sort of a real life thing that you could refer to get an idea about stereotypical cheerleader type of drama. Jennifer's Body, The Replacements. There's even a movie called Cheerleaders. Bring It On is actually, there's several Bring It On movies that were made. And then Not Another Teen Movie features cheerleaders. These are just some examples of cheerleaders in media where there's a stereotype and where I learned that some of that stereotype is actually true because there's a lot of drama that goes on the cheer team. And I'll tell you, a lot of that drama has to do with the parents on the cheer team and the way that these parents are parenting their children. I'll tell you, I seen parents on the cheer team who let their girls dress any kind of way going to school, pants that are painted on, almost like they don't even have pants on, these leggings and yoga pants and stuff, wearing pajamas to school, really low quality type of stuff. I met parents on the cheer team who allow their teen daughters to stay the night at their boyfriend's house. And of course, we know what's going on there. Any parents who are like, oh yeah, go sleep at your boyfriend's house, or parents who allow their the girls' boyfriends to come sleep over at their house. Like, you know what's going on there. They're laying down together. And these parents are endorsing that. We're talking teen girls, 14, 15, 16 years old. And the parents are enabling them to have these adult encounters with boys. And they don't even think twice about it. This is the kind of parenting that is going on with these girls. Parents who don't care that their kid is vaping. Parents who are probably buying the vapes for their kids, be it cannabis or nicotine. That's the kind of parenting we're dealing with. Allegedly, in my opinion. I gotta wonder, the parents of the girl, the shirt in the picture at the beginning of this video, that's the girl's shirt who was vaping. Allegedly, in my opinion. Any parent in the community could look and say, that's my girl's shirt. That's my girl. There's a vape on top of her shirt. Do they care? Did they buy the vape for her? These are the kind of things that I'm talking about. Accountability, and the lack of it. Inaccountability and unaccountability. One of the biggest problems in the United States of America, definitely a huge problem in Port Orchard, definitely a huge problem in that high school. And a lot of it has to do with parents who want to be friends with their kids, or they just don't care, or maybe the parents are retarded and just have zero ability to parent children. And they just let their children run wild, which is something that's definitely happening in that school and on that cheer team. But regarding this parenting, I'll add this too. There are a lot of parents in the community who are stand-up parents, really decent people. Some of these girls on this cheer team, when they were confronted with this situation, when they looked down onto that shirt and they saw that vape sitting there, they didn't even know what they were looking at. These are kids who are being parented correctly. Parents who are trying to shield them from these adult subjects, like vaping, for example. These kids had no idea, like vaping, I don't even understand, like, what is this that I'm looking at? Like, I don't even know how that works. Innocent girls, as they should be, teens in high school, right? These are parents who are trying to protect these girls from these adult things, but then you've got parents who are failing to do that. So when you see this vape on this shirt, a large part of me feels like the parent who allowed this to happen with that one kid, or my understanding is it was actually multiple girls. Even if these parents didn't know that this was going on, if they find out about it, what is their reaction to it? Oh, that wasn't my kid. Oh no, she was set up. Oh, my kid wouldn't do that. And I'll tell you, these girls, what they did when they found out that my daughter had seen right there out in the open this vape on this shirt, and she was concerned. She's like, I didn't think this was activity that we really endorsed on this cheer team. I thought that we were supposed to be good stewards of the school's reputation and reflect well on the school's reputation as members of the cheer team. And she started addressing this with her peers. As soon as the vaping girls found out about it, they went to the, shall we say, leadership in order to exercise damage control. It was actually pretty slick. These girls aren't as stupid as one might think. They headed, as soon as they realized, hey, we got caught, we did something stupid, we left this thing out, the other girls have noticed, they're going to say something, they went to exercise damage control. And they were like, well, there's this girl and she's starting rumors, and like, I don't know what she's talking about because like it's not happening, and nobody's vaping, and she's just being really like, mean and starting rumors and stuff. I kind of wonder, did the parents of these vaping girls even find out about the fact that they were vaping and that there's this vape sitting on top of the shirt? And like I said, if they did find out, these parents, are they the kind of parents who are going to be like, oh, my child can do no wrong. No, they weren't doing this. This isn't happening. Or would they actually address the situation and be like, you're doing this behind my back. I'm going to deal with you. You're, in trouble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I still don't know the aftermath of this or if anything happened at all. I seriously doubt that the information was even shared with the parents who've got kids out there that are vaping. I mean, do these parents even know that their kids are vaping? I don't know. Of course, none of that's going to be reported back to me. But to this day, I still wonder. I remember when I first got her on this cheer team, I thought, what would a good parent do? Well, I figured a good parent would introduce themselves to the leadership, right? They're at South Kitsap High School. Not going to mention any names. Right away, I was like, weird. Because this cheer coach couldn't care less that a parent came up and introduced themselves to her. She was like nonchalant about it, like nothing cordial about it. Didn't want to talk to me, couldn't care less that I approached her. And I was really put off by it. I was like, Jesus, might be one of the most unsocial people I've ever met. I can kind of relate to that. I'm not very social either, but as a person who's, taking a position like that in the school, a parent comes up and introduced themselves. And I even told her, like, I welcome you to challenge my kid. I want my kid to be challenged. If you have any issues, you can always text or call, whatever, email, whatever. Really didn't even seem interested in any way, shape, or form that I came up and introduced myself to them. I was like, maybe I'm just out of touch. Maybe this is just the way it is these days. These coaches don't care about parents being involved in their child's extracurricular activity. I didn't know what to think about it. I was racking my brain trying to figure it out. And I'll tell you, one of the things that first raised my concern about the cheer team at South Kitsap High School was in the winter of 2024. My daughter was on the cheer team and, doing her cheer thing, right? And there was a game. This is, I want to say, kind of during the Friday Night Lights stuff. And it was a really cold night. It was dark out. It was winter. The temperatures were pretty low. I'm not going to say they were like negative or anything. They were probably somewhere in the 30s, early 40s, right? There was some rain going on. There was some wind going on. And as an adult male who spent his life in the Army, going to the field, being cold, for me, it was kind of like, I'm sitting in the bleachers and I was sucking. I was like, I could be a little warmer right now. This kind of sucks. And I'm looking at those girls on the track doing their cheer thing, freezing, right? Just sucking out there, like wearing their skimpy little cheer outfits, really cold. At some point, there was even a parent who went up there and said, no, I'm taking my daughter out of here. And she went and she took her daughter off the track and took her out of there. It was so cold. There were adults in the bleachers who were like, they had all the cold weather gear on, and, you could see like, hey, it's cold out, man. There was another cheer team there just right down the track from them. That was the cheer team for the opposing team. They had cold weather gear on. They were pretty warm. They didn't look like they were uncomfortable at all, And then I look at them, and then I look at our cheer team, and they were just, my God, I'm surprised somebody didn't get hypothermia. I honestly am. It was really, really cold. And of course, me being kind of a hard ass, I look at this as like, oh, it's going to toughen these girls up, I think a lot of the parents, as liberal as they were like, my daughter is freezing her tuchus off out there. At what point do I step in and do something about this? You know what I mean? That was sort of the first red flag where I kind of realized that nobody really cared about these girls, allegedly, in my opinion. And I was kind of like, so what should I do about this? Where do we go from here? What is in store for the future regarding my daughter's involvement with this team when the adults in the room don't even care enough to keep these girls warm during inclement weather, But aside from that, moving on with the subject of this video, she came to me with the incident. She says, some of the cheer girls were openly using vaping. And that's the thing about vaping is I don't know if it was nicotine or cannabis. You can never tell in Washington. Cannabis is really serious, by the way. I mean, that's a drug. When you're a kid in school, like cannabis will really mess you up. So when you don't know, like, is it nicotine? Is it cannabis? Either way, it's very serious, in my opinion. Like, if you don't agree that it's serious, you got issues. Nicotine, cannabis, vaping, teenagers in high school, that's serious. It's not to be taken lightly. The part of the problem is in a state like Washington, where it's a liberal state, stuff like that's like, who cares? Kids vaping, kids using whatever. They're just sucking on that vape, whatever. It's not a big deal, right? And that was really, that hit home when I addressed this issue. My daughter says, some of these girls were vaping. One of the girls left this vape on a shirt. She took a picture of it. First thing I said to my daughter is, you're not a snitch. We don't snitch. We're not snitches. We're not going to run to somebody and snitch about this. Okay? I told her, you don't go snitch on anybody. What she ended up doing was talking with her peers, other cheer girls, about this situation. Says, how do you feel about this? Like, what do you think we should do? She talked with these other girls on the cheer team. What should we do anything about this? How do you feel about it? What do you think about the fact that these other girls are, At some point, there was an interaction between this coach and my daughter that basically said, mind your own business. This doesn't concern you. Stop spreading rumors. Stop talking smack. Right? When I learned about this interaction between my daughter and these adults, these supposed leaders, these stewards of our children who we're supposed to be raising to be responsible and accountable and hardworking and educated, and the list goes on, right? We want the best for our children. When I heard about these interactions, I was like, what? No, you got to be kidding me. So I went to the school and I walked up to that cheer coach and I sat down beside her. And I mentioned to her very casually, I said, do you think, I showed her a picture on the phone, said, do you think it's acceptable for some of your cheer girls to be using this? And she looked at me and she said something to the effect, I can't remember verbatim, right? So I'm not going to try to say exactly what she said. Well, you'll have to address that with the administration. And that was it. Couldn't care less. Didn't want to have a discussion about it. Could not care less. I really got the sense that she was protecting these girls. Maybe these girls had some parents who contributed a lot, or maybe she was friends with the parents. Maybe she just didn't care. That's the impression I got. Allegedly, in my opinion. Turns out that very same day, there was some kind of school administration meeting going on in there. I noticed there was kind of a crowd inside the school. So I go into the school and I go up to this school administration meeting. Right before the meeting convened, I started talking to some of the administrators. Are you concerned about this? Do you care that there's girls on the cheer team who are vaping and the coach couldn't care less? Well, turns out these school administrators couldn't care less either. I shared this information with all the administration of the school. Couldn't care less. Nothing happened to these girls. Allegedly, in my opinion. Right? I took my daughter off the cheer team. I don't want her in that kind of environment. So I just pulled her off the team. So I don't want my daughter subjected to this. Now, the funny part of this story is a story that I have about the next thing we tried in the same high school, which was the dance team. I'm not going to go into it right now. I'm just giving it as sort of a, like, stay tuned for another story that's coming, because this dance team story is just as crazy, but totally different, right? The story I'm telling today about this SKHS cheer team, it's an illustration of the lack of accountability in a high school like SKHS, in a community like Port Orchard. This isn't the only story I have about a lack of accountability in a community like that. But that's what you get when you have libtarded, left-tarded, dim-tarded policies ruling the culture. Nobody wants to hold anybody accountable. Oh, you did something bad? So whatever. Just keep doing the bad things. No accountability, right? And then people wonder, how could something like this happen where a boy throws a huge pole off of a second floor into a girl's head? And it's only going to keep getting worse. That school, this isn't the first story you're going to hear out of this school. It's just going to get worse. There's no accountability. They just want to sweep everything under the carpet, just like the left turds want to do with all this stuff we got going on over there in Minnesota with billions of dollars of fraud. Sweep it under the carpet. No, we don't want to talk about that, right? Right? We don't want to take accountability. We don't want to admit that something bad happened here. We don't want to address these concerns. I'll tell you what should have happened. And probably what would have happened in the high school that I attended. Said, a vape? What? Shut it down. That coach should have got up, because I approached that coach on the bleachers of that high school. I walked up to her and I sat down next to her on the bleachers and I said, do you approve of this? That coach should have shut that down right then and there. Shut the whole training event down and said, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Who on this team is using vapes? Who on this team is bringing this kind of discredit to this organization? Let's get to the bottom of this right now. But no, that's not the way it is with these people in these kinds of communities and these kinds of schools where your kid is in danger morally, physically, emotionally, psychologically on a daily basis. And this is just another example of that. Anybody who's thinking about coming to live in Port Orchard or that community and sending their kid to this school, You think twice about that, and that's why I'm making this video. Let me know what you think about that. Mention it in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, whatever. Be nice if a couple people watch my videos. Take care. Safety first.